Okay, so in this tutorial, we're going to go through one of the GCSE Maths Foundation papers, paper 1, and it's the foundation tier, okay? And I'm just going to take you through all of the questions and try to explain them the best that I can. Okay, so let's start then with question 1. Now, I know that you might know these easier ones, and that's fine, but I just want to go through everything nice and detailed, just so that everyone understands everything. Now, the first question says, and I have seen students get these wrong, write 6,324 correct to the nearest 1,000. Well, if you're writing a number to correct to the nearest 1,000, you would do, is 6,324 closer to 6,000 or 7,000? That's what you have to think. Is it closer to 6,000 or 7,000? Because it's asking you for the nearest 1,000. Well, it's 324, so 6,324. So it's closer to this number. So if we round it, it's rounded to 6,000. Question 2 says to write the following numbers in order of size, starting with the smallest. The smallest number on there is always the biggest negative number, because it's like saying it's the coldest temperature. So our coldest number is -6, then we have -5, then we have 0, then 6, then 12. Okay. Now it says to write the following numbers in order of size, starting with the smallest. Now these ones are decimals, so when I work with decimals, I always try and encourage students to think about money. Okay. Now, to make this easier for ourselves, we could say that this is actually 87 pence. And we could say that this is 78 pence. Okay, £0 and 78 pence. Now, this one is £0 and 70 pence. But we've got this little 8 on the end. So we could say it's 71 pence, or really close to 71 pence. And then this one over here, well, that's £0 and 07 pence. So that's between 7 and 8 pence. So you could say 8 pence if you wanted. It just gives you an idea of how big or small the numbers are. So now we know that if we're starting with the smallest, our smallest number is 0.078. Okay, because it's only 8p. We then have this one, which is 71 pence. So 0.708. Then this one, 0.78. And finally, 0.87. Okay, so sometimes it helps if you just use the first two decimal places, and this 07, 78, 87, 70. Okay, it's just working it out in pence for you to make you aware of which one's the smallest. Okay, then this last question on this page, question 3, says to write 20% as a fraction. Well, 20% as a fraction, you might already know the answer, but if not, what you can do is say, well, 20% actually means 20 out of 100. And if I cancel that down, I can take off a 0 from the top and the bottom. Okay, that gives me 2 over 10. That means that I've technically divided by 10. Okay. So 20 divided by 10 is 2, and 100 divided by 10 is 10. And then what I'm going to do to make this even smaller is divide everything by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. So as a fraction, 20% is 1/5. All right, let's move on then. So obviously, as the foundation paper goes through, it does get a bit trickier. So question 4 says, here is a list of 4 fractions. One of these fractions is not equivalent to a quarter. Write down this fraction. Now, it's only 1 mark, and if you're really, really good at fractions, or you know what you need to know, should I say, about fractions, you'll probably be able to answer this really quickly. If not, here's a quick way that you could do that. So what I would do, if you're not sure, is go through each fraction and cancel it down. So 4 out of 16, I can divide by 2, so I'm going to half them. 2 out of 8, and divide by 2 again, 1 over 4. So that is equivalent to a quarter. We're trying to find the one that isn't. 2/8 then, let's look at 2/8. Well, that's quite easy. We can half that, 1/4. 15 over 60. Now, with 15 over 60, you won't be able to half it or divide by 2 because this is an odd number. So instead, we're going to divide by 5. Okay, 15 divided by 5 is 3, and 60 divided by 5 is 12. And then finally, we can divide by 3 to cancel it down even further. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So that is also equivalent to a quarter. So we know that our answer must be that one. Okay, you might have been able to identify that a lot quicker, and that's absolutely fine. I'm just saying, just in case, I'm going through each one step by step. Okay, question 5 says to write down the first even multiple of 7. So, multiples of 7. Now, come on, guys. I've seen so many mistakes with factors and multiples. Multiple of 7 means the multiplication table, the times table. So, the 7 times table, 7, 14, 21, 28, okay? So, the first even multiple of 7 is obviously 14, because 14 is an even number and it's the first even one in the 7 times table. Alright, we're now moving on to a bit of algebra. So first of all, question 6a asks you, simplify 3 times 4t. I'm sorry, I'm just going to go back to question 5 quickly, because I just explained that this is a multiple. So a multiple of 7 is the 7 times table. Okay, I'm just explaining a little bit more. A multiple of 5 is the 5 times table. So 5, 10, 15, 20. A multiple of 3. Okay, so any multiple of any number is the times table. However, a factor, can't really describe this anywhere. Let me just take some of that off. A factor, though, okay, is a number that goes inside. So factor is different to a multiple. So you're always going to have a factor of a bigger number, okay, most of the time in your exam. See, multiples usually start with a relatively small number because you're doing the times table. Factors will say, what's a factor of 14? And all that means is what numbers go inside 14. 1, 2, 7, and 14 go into 14. Okay? 14 can be divided by all of those numbers. Alright, so it's just the difference between a multiple and a factor. I thought I'd explain it. Okay, so let's go back then to question 6. 3 times 40. Now, these are really simple and people get really confused. All you do is 3 times 4, which is 12, and then put the t on the end. Okay? For B, simplify 8a minus 3a plus 2a. So what I would do is I would do this bit first. 8 take away 3 is 5. So we've got 5a, and then you've got that plus 2a on the end, which gives us 7a. Alright. Okay, so question 7 talks about probability. So let's take our time with this one. People do struggle with probability. Here is a probability scale. It shows the probability of each of the events A, B, C, and D. Write down the letter of the event that is certain. Okay, so it wants us to write down which event would be certain. Well, on a probability scale, 0 means that it's completely impossible, and 1 means that it will definitely happen. And if 1 is certain, and it says to write down the letter, well, there's D, so it's got to be D. Then it says to write down the letter of the event that is unlikely. Well, unlikely is quite close to impossible, okay, but it's not quite impossible, so I'd say B, okay. That was all right, that was quite easy, that one. And then it says there are 12 counters in a bag. 3 of the counters are red. Oops, I apologise. Let's go back. 3 of the counters are red. 1 of the counters is blue. 2 of the counters are yellow. Trying to be clever here. 2 of the counters are yellow and the rest are green. Okay, so we need to know how many green ones there are. Catelyn takes a random counter out of the bag. Show that the probability that this counter is yellow or green is 2/3. Sorry, I didn't read that very well. So the first thing we've got to do is work out how many green counters there are, which is quite easy because there are 12 counters in the bag. We have 3, 4, 5, 6 there, and 6 add 6 is 12. So there must be 6 green counters left, okay? Okay, so it says to show that the probability that this counter is yellow or green if she takes out a random counter is 2/3. So we have 2 yellow counters and we have 6 green counters. So altogether that's 8 counters. Okay. We have 6 green and 2 yellow. All right, and it's asking if the probability of the counter is going to be yellow or green is 2/3. Okay, and we've got to show that we know that. So altogether, I've got 8 counters out of a total of 12. And now all I need to do is simplify that like we have been doing on the fractions questions. So I'm just going to divide by 2. Okay, so 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. And then I'm just going to divide by 2 again. Obviously, you can do it quicker if you know a quicker way. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. And you've shown that the probability that that random counter, being yellow or green, is 2/3. Okay. All right, and you got quite a few marks for that. You got 5 marks for that page. Okay then, so on question 8, it says that we have 3 kilograms of meat, which costs £54, and Nina buys 2 kilograms of meat. Work out how much Nina pays. So all we need to do for that is we need to take our £54, and so let's write that down. 3 kg equals £54. Okay, so I want to know what 1 kilogram is. To work out what 1 kilogram is, I need to divide this by 3. Okay, so 54 divided by 3. Now, obviously, it's a non-calculator paper. So how many 3's go into 5? That's 1, with 2 left over. And how many 3's into 24 is 8. So altogether, it's £18. So if 1 kilogram costs £18, I just need to times that by 2 to give us the cost of 2 kilograms, which is £36. So we can just put that in there. Okay, so the centre of this circle is marked with a cross. 9A says to write down the mathematical name of the straight line shown in the circle. Well, in this case, I really hope you do know this one. So from the centre to the outside, that is called the radius. Okay, from the all the way through, I'm just going to do that in a different colour. All the way through, remember, okay, that's the diameter. Please don't forget those. All right. And then question B says to write down the mathematical name for the straight line that is touching the circle. So this kind of line here that just touches the circle in one point, at one point, is called the tangent. So again, try and remember those. Okay, question 10, another problem-solving question, but you get a nice 3 marks here. Tim and 3 friends go on holiday together for a week. The 4 friends will share the costs of the holiday equally. Here are the costs of the holiday. So £1,280 for 4 return plane tickets, £640 for the villa, and £220 for hire of a car for the week. Work out how much Tim has to pay for his share of the costs. Well, they're obviously going to share it 4 ways because there's 4 friends. So all we need to do first is add up how much that is going to cost. Okay. So, first of all, let's add up the zeros. So we've got 0 there, and then you've got 8, add 4, add 2. Okay, so that's 14, carry the 1. 6, add 2 is 10, plus the 1 is 11, carry the 1. 1, and then add this 1 there that you've carried is 2,140. Okay. Right, if you can't add, adding that way is pretty, everyone's been doing that method for a very long time with the addition, so I'm hoping you're okay with that method of adding. So 2,140 is the total cost. Now what we need to do is divide that by 4, which gives you a chance to use that nice division method I told you about earlier. So when we divide something by 4, you can either divide by 2, like half it, and then half it again. Okay. Or you can just divide by 4 in the bus stop like this. So I'm going to do it in the bus stop to give you some practice. So I'm going to use a different colour as well. So 2,140 divided by 4. Well, we can't put 4 into 2, so instead we're going to put 4 into 21. So I'm just going to write down some of my 4 times table. Okay, just so I've got it there. And I know I can only fit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 4s into 21. Okay, so that 1 that's left over will have to go there to make 14. Now, how many 4s now will go into 14? Well, I've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, but 3 is only up to 12, so I've got 2 left over, which goes there to make that 20. And then I put how many 4s into 20? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, exactly, with no remainders. So his share of the holiday is £535. All right. And again, if you wanted to half it and half it again, you can. So half of 2,140 is 1,070. And then half of that is obviously 535. All right, just showing you can half it and half it again to get the same answer. That's only when divided by 4, remember. Okay, question 11. Write down an example to show that each of the following 2 statements is not correct. The factors of an even number are always even. Right, so let's remember what a factor is. Let's write this down here. A factor is a number that goes inside another number. Okay, that's not a very good description, but it's more in layman's terms, that's what it means. So if I want a factor of 20, I know I can have 1, 2, 5, 10, 20. Okay? 4 as well. Alright, so you can fit all those numbers in there. 20 divided by 4 is 5. That shows that both 5... Oops. That shows that both 4 and 5 go in. 20 divided by 10 is 2. That shows that both 10 and 2 go in. 20 divided by 1 is 20, which shows you that 1 and 20 go in. Okay, so that's what a factor is. It goes inside a number. Okay, so back to the question. The factors of an even number are always even. So let's write down some even numbers. So we have 22, and we have 36. So in 22, I know that I can split that up into 2 times 11. 2 times 11 makes 22. Okay, well, 11 is a factor, and it's definitely not even. Okay, so you've done an example already. We could do another one. 4 times 9 makes 36. Well, 9 is not an even number. Okay, so you'll have got your 1 mark there. And then question B says, all the digits in odd numbers are odd. All the digits in odd numbers are odd. So let's write down some odd numbers. Okay, so we've got 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, 19, 21, 23, 25, 27, 29. That'll do. Okay, I'm just writing out some odd numbers just for the fun of it. Didn't even need that many. So here, that theory is correct. Up to about there. Okay, but then once it gets into the 20s, obviously, well, 2 as a digit is even. Okay, so again, you'd have shown just drawing those out and putting those arrows in that not all digits in odd numbers are odd. Okay, so the digits are obviously the numbers on their own. All right, just in case you weren't sure. Okay, let's move on to question 12. So question 12 is a little bit long-winded. I don't like these ones, if I'm honest. Just a bit boring. So it says that a shop sells desktop computers, laptops and tablets. The composite bar chart shows information about sales over the last 3 years. Question A says to write down the number of desktop computers sold in 2015. All right, so I'm going to go to my 2015 bar just here, okay? And I'm going to work out how many desktop computers were sold in that year. Well, desktop computers is the black box. So all it's going to be is from here to here. And look, like that's nice, that's 100. Nice and easy. 100 desktop computers were sold. Now it says to work out the total number of laptops sold in 3 years. Okay, well, first of all, in 2015, the laptops, which are in the kind of the black lined boxes, you've got 2015, and that's here, from here, up to here. So we have to work out what that means. So it's from 100, and then these little squares are 20, okay, because you've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, or 100, getting you up to another 100 there. So each box is 20. So here, from here, I've got 3 boxes there, so that's 60. So that must be 260 there, okay? So 260 minus 100 gives us 160 laptops in 2015. Okay, and then if we look at 2016, it's from here, which is 120, to here, which is 340. So 340 minus 120 gives us 220 laptops. And finally, in 2017, it's from here, okay, which is 160, I think, yeah, to here, which is 440. So we do 440 minus 160 gives us 280 laptops. And now what we need to do is add all those together. So if we'll just put it here, 160, 220, 280. Okay, so 6 add 8 is 14, 16. And then 4, 5, 6. So 660. Okay, so that's 660 laptops sold then in total in in all over the 3 years. Right, so then the third question says, state the item that had the greatest increase in sales over the 3 years. Give a reason for your answer. Okay, so for this one, I'm just going to change my colour again. We can see that in 2015, so automatically, if we look at the graph, we can see that this has had the biggest change. Okay, here and here. All right, so they've had the biggest change. So it's obviously tablets, but we just need to give a reason. So we can say that in 2015, if we worked it out from there to there, 2, 4, 6, they sold 60 tablets. Okay, because there's only 3 squares. And then in 2017, they actually sold from 440 up to 780. So I'm just going to do 780, take away 440, so that we can see how many tablets were sold in 2017. So 8 take away 4, so 340. So in 2017, they sold 340 tablets. Okay, and you've got your 2 marks there. All right, if you're still struggling on how to understand those types of bar charts, feel free to comment on the video or send me an email to info@cubateducation.com, and I'll try and do a video based on just those. Okay, so let's move on then. So question D then now, it says that in 2017, Alex says, in 2017, more tablets were sold than desktop computers. This means the shop makes more profit from the sale of tablets than from the sale of desktop computers. Is Alex correct? You must justify your answer. Okay, well, first of all, no, it is not correct. Okay, and that's because we're not given any information about profit. Okay, so we are not given any information about profit. If you want to, you can also say something like, we don't know how much each of those cost. So tablets can sometimes be cheaper than laptops depending on what kind of tablet you buy. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they earned more money as well, which is also still a valid answer. Okie doke. Question 13 then says, a piece of wire is 240 centimetres long. Peter cuts 2 45-centimetre lengths off the wire. He then cuts the rest of the wire into as many 40-centimetre lengths as possible. Work out how many 40-centimetre lengths of wire Peter needs to cut. Okay, so first of all, let's just draw this so that we've got a bit of some kind of like an image in your mind to understand this. So you've got a piece of wire. Here's our piece of wire, okay, and it's 240 centimetres long. Peter's going to cut 2 45-centimetre pieces. So 45 times 2 is 90 centimetres. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is 240 take away 90 because he's going to cut them off first. Okay, so 240 take away 90 is 150 centimetres. So now we've taken off the 90 and we're just left with this wire which measures 150 centimetres. It now says that he's going to cut the rest of the wire into 40 centimetre lengths, or as many of them as possible. How many of these lengths does he get? So you can either do, I don't know if you can hear that, I've got a motorbike outside, dead loud. So we can do 150 divided by 40, or, to make it easier, 15 divided by 4, okay? It will give you the same answer. Well, if we write out our 4 times table, we know that I'm not going to be able to get to this one, so I can only cut 3 pieces, okay? All right, moving on. Question 14. Now, question 14 can be a lot easier than it looks if you are careful. In your exam, or at least in the upcoming assessments that are now going to determine your GCSE grades, it's very important for centres now that the work that you've already done up to now really shows your grade that you're going to get in this final assessment, okay, that you're either going to do at school or you may have already done. So if you haven't done it yet, this is a perfect time now to get those, pieces of work done that show that you can achieve this, because we can't justify a grade for you if you aren't putting in the effort beforehand, okay? Okay, so let's have a look at question 14 then. So Gavin, Harry and Isabel each earn the same monthly salary. Each month, Gavin saves 28% of his salary and spends the rest of his salary. Harry spends 3/4 of his salary and saves the rest. The amount of salary Isabel saves in the ratio of the amount of salary she spends is 3:7. Work out who saves the most of their salary each month. Okay, so what's nice and easy about this one is, first of all, we have 3 people. We have Gavin, we have Harry, and we have Isabel. Gavin saves 28% of his salary. Harry saves 1/4. I know he saves 1/4 because it says that he spends 3/4, so he must save 1/4. Now, Isabel, if you look at hers, it says that the amount she saves is this one, and this is the amount she spends. Okay, so I'm just going to write that in a ratio of 3:7. Save, spend. Okay, if we were going to put this as a fraction, this Isabel one, we know altogether that she's got 10 parts, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and she saves 3 out of 10 of them. So, Gavin saves 28%, Harry saves 1/4. 1/4 can be written as 25%, so we know that Harry saves less than Gavin. And finally, 3/10. Well, 3/10 we should know is 30%, because 3/10 is the same as 30 over 100, which is 30%. So Isabel saves more than any of them, so Isabel saves the most each month. Okay, and a nice 4 marks for that as well. Now, after that quite tricky question, it then asks you to work out 15% of 160 grams. So I'm hoping you can do this one quite easily now. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to work out 10%, sorry. So 10% of 160, okay? We just take off that 0, which is 16. Okay, we just divide by 10. That's what we did. We divided by 10. Now, to find 5%, okay, well, 5% is just going to be half of this, because 5 is half of 10, so that's 8. And altogether, this 10 and this 5% make 15%. So we just need to do 16 add 8, okay, which is 24. All right. So, moving on then. Now, here we are looking at some equations, I think. Oh, no, sorry, just putting in some values. Okay, for question 16 then, you are being asked to substitute. It says that P equals 4x plus 3y. X is 5 and y is minus 2. Work out the value of P. Now, with these, people, again, are struggling, but you just need to take your time. People are rushing and trying doing it all in their head. Just write things down. You've got paper. Why bother trying to do it all in your head? You'll just make a mistake, okay? I'm not saying that means you're not clever, because I hate doing things in my head. I like to write everything down. Okay, so I'm going to write out the same expression here, all right? And I'm going to put in 4 times, because 4x means 4 times x, and x is 5. So I'm going to put 5 where x is, and I'm actually going to put that in brackets. And then I'm going to do plus 3, because that's here, times, and again I'm going to put this in brackets, minus 2, because y is minus 2. Okay, then I'm going to work out what's in my brackets. So 4 times 5 is 20. 3 times minus 2. Well, 3 times 2 is 6. So 3 times minus 2 must be minus 6. And then you've got p equals 20 plus minus 6, which actually just means 20 minus 6, because the minus wins out in this case. When you've got two things together like that, the minus is always the dominant one. So 20 take away 6 is 14, so p equals 14. Okay, so B then says to expand now. So be careful when expanding. You want to be really careful, making sure that you're not missing anything out. So here what you've got is you've got 4e being multiplied by e. So 4e being multiplied by e just gives us 4e squared, because you're just having two lots of e's being multiplied together, as well as the 4, obviously. And then we're going to put our plus sign in, because our plus sign is here. And then we're going to do 4e times 2. 4e times 2 is just going to be 8e, because 4 times 2 is 8. So in here we can put 4e squared plus 8e. And then finally you've got 16c. And for 16c, it's asking us to solve an equation. So we have 3m minus 4 equals 21. Now it's got brackets in, so we have to expand them again, multiply them out. So 3 times m is 3m. Put the minus in, and then 3 times 4 is 12. And that equals 21. Now when we do an equation, remember, we work backwards. So what we're going to do now is we are going to think of this equals sign as a barrier, and we want everything to be moved away from this m. We want m all on its own. Well, here we have a minus 12. Okay, that's the furthest thing away from the m at the minute, so I'm going to use that first. And to get it away, I'm going to do the opposite to move it over the equals sign by adding it. Okay? If I add it, I then end up with 3m on this side equals, okay, and you're going to do 21, add the 12, okay? Giving you 33. Now all we need to do, still thinking of this equals sign as a barrier, we need to get rid of this 3. Well, to move that over the barrier, we need to do the opposite of what's happening to it. 3m means 3 times m. So in order to get rid of that 3, I need to divide it. So I need to divide by 3. So I then end up with m on this side and 33 divided by 3 on this side. Well, 33 divided by 3 is 11. So m equals 11. All right, I hope that makes sense then. So let's move on to the next question. Okay, so this one says that there are some chocolates in a box. A quarter of the chocolates contain nuts. Okay, the rest of the chocolates do not contain nuts. Write down the ratio of the number of chocolates that contain nuts to the number of chocolates that do not contain nuts. Give your answer in the form 1 to n. Okay, so that really does sound complicated, especially for those people that think that towards the end of the paper it's starting to get a bit trickier. But please bear with me, it's not as hard as it looks. So it's telling you that chocolates that contain nuts, okay, is 1/4, all right, and not contain nuts, or yeah, let's put no nuts instead of not nuts. No nuts. Okay, is 3/4. Now we can't write it like that as a ratio, but what you can see now is that altogether, yes, there are 4 parts, which means that this one and this one must be added to make the 4 parts. So our ratio is just 1 to 3. Okay then, so for question 18, this is a probability question. So for those that are struggling with probability, pay close attention to this question. So it says that A is the multiples of 5 between 14 and 26, and B are the odd numbers between 14 and 26. So A says to list the numbers or the members of A, and then this random symbol, B. So this symbol means or. So A or B. Okay, so that means kind of what could be in both lists. Now, what I mean by that is, so first of all, we're going to list the multiples of 5 between 14 and 26. So that's 15, 20, 25. And then it says to list the odd numbers between 14 and 26. So that's 15, 17, 19, 21, 23, and 25. So when we have this kind of symbol here, it means what comes up in both, but we're not going to repeat them. So we've got what comes up all together, but we're not going to repeat them. So we need to write down all the numbers. So 15, 17, 19, 20, 21, 23, and 25. So they're in both lists, okay? So we don't need to write 25 twice, even though it's in both lists. Then for B, it says to describe the members of A, and then this symbol here. And basically that means A and B at the same time. And what that means is we can only look at the numbers that appear in both lists. So it's only 15 and 25. Okay? Fractions then. Again, people keep getting confused on these questions, and you can actually get a really high grade on these papers if you're really, really careful. So it says to work out 2 1/7 plus 1 1/4. Well, for these ones, we could start with going, right, well, this 2 and this 1 can go over here. 2 plus 1 is 3. And now all I'm left with is 1/7 plus 1/4. Now, the way that I do these questions, and I think is an easier way for, students to understand. Sorry, I'm just being really annoying with the way I'm writing. So the way I do this is we do cross multiply, but we just use the longer method. So I will do a new line now, but I will make my fraction one whole fraction. The first thing I'm going to do is multiply the two numbers on the bottom. So 7 times 4 is 28. Then what we're going to do is cross multiply. Your add symbol still goes in the middle because we're adding. If it was a subtraction, then it would be subtract. Okay? But it's add. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do 4 times 1, which is 4, and that will go where the 1 was. We're then going to do 7 times 1, which is 7, and that will also go where the 1 was. So it must go in the place of these. Okay, you can't mix them up. You can with the add, but when it's with subtract, it will be wrong. So be careful and make sure you put them in the right place. Okay, so then we're going to do 7 add 4. Okay, and then that's 11 over 28 then. Okay, and that's it. You can't do anything else with that, so that can go there. It then says, oh, hang on, I'm lying to you. Don't forget your 3 from here. 3 and 11 over 28, okay? You must not forget that bit. Okay, we just work that out first. All right, so then it says for B to work out 1 1/5 divided by 3/4. Now, when you're doing division, you must turn this into a top-heavy fraction. Okay, because otherwise it won't work. Now, I'm just going to show you how to do that with a couple of examples down here. All right, so let's say you have 1 2/9. What you're going to do is you're going to do 1 times 9, and then you're going to add the 2. So 1 times 9 is 9, 9 add 2 is 11. So as a top-heavy fraction, that would be 11 over 9. If you had 3 and 4 over 7, you would do 3 times 7, which is 21, and then add the 4, which is 25. So you'd end up with 25 over 7. It's always this number on the bottom that you put down. Okay? So, again, there is a video on that if you need to go back and recap it. So, 1 1/5 would become 1 times 5, which is 5, plus the 1, which is 6. So, it would be 6 over 5. Okay? That would be our new fraction. Divided by 3/4, because we'll just carry on the question. Now, when we're dividing, again, another thing to remember is you must flip the second fraction. So I'm going to write it down here, actually. 6/5. And we're actually going to flip that other fraction to 4 over 3 and turn the division into a times. Okay, that's just the rule. That's how you work it out. And then we're just going to do 6 times 4, which is 24, and 5 times 3, which is 15. Now, 24 over 15 can be divided by 3. Okay, so 24 divided by 3 is 8. and 15 divided by 3 is 5. But now we still have a top-heavy fraction of 8 over 5, and I want to put it back into a normal mixed number because that's what it's asking us for. So in order to do that, to change it from 8 over 5 to a number that looks like this, we divide instead because we times before. So how many 5s go into 8? So that's just 1. Okay, and how many are left? 5, 6, 7, 8, 3. And then we put 5 on the bottom. So our actual final answer is 1 and 3 over 5. Again, please go back and watch the video on division of fractions and multiplication and mixed numbers and top-heavy fractions. Okay, I'm just writing them there just so you've got them. Okay, I'm not writing them properly. All right, make sure if you're stuck with that kind of thing, go back to those videos. This is a really good time now for you to really, really do some good revision. Okay, moving on to question 20 then. All right, so in a village, the number of houses and the number of flats are in the ratio of 7 to 4. The number of flats and the number of bungalows are in the ratio of 8 to 5. There are 50 bungalows in the village. How many houses are there in the village? Okay, so what this tells us is that you've got the number of houses, this first sentence, to the number of flats is 7 to 4. But then on this second sentence, it says the number of flats to the number of bungalows is 8 to 5. It also tells us that there are 50 bungalows, so we can write that there. So we know that 5 parts for bungalows is the same as 50 bungalows altogether. So in order to get from 5 to 50, we actually times by 10. So that means we can times this by 10 to tell us how many flats there are. So there are 80 flats. Now, if we look at this one here, flats are in the ratio of 7 to 4. But I know that there are 80 flats, so I'm going to write that there. What did I times 4 by to get to 80? Well, 80 divided by 4 is 20, so I must have times by 20. So that means I must times by 20 there. So 2 times 7 is 14, and then add the 0. So 140 houses. Okay. All right then, so let's move on to question 21. This is quite a nice question, I thought, and you get 4 marks for it. So, Renee buys 5 kilograms of sweets to sell, and she pays £10 for the sweets. Renee puts all the sweets into bags, and she puts 250 grams of sweets in each bag. She sells each bag of sweets for 65p. Renee sells all the bags of sweets. Work out her percentage profit. So when you're looking at a question like this, start from the beginning. It's telling you that she buys 5 kilos of sweets. Okay, so you can read it through a few times to get the gist. It says she pays £10 for them, and then she splits them into 250-gram bags, okay, and sells them for 65p. So the first thing that I think about there is, right, well, I've got 5 kilos, so I know that that's 5,000 grams for £10. Okay. Now, she then splits that into 250-gram bags. Okay, so if I do 5,000 divided by 250, that gives me 20 bags. Now, the way I work that out is you could do 500, so you could take a 0 off, divided by 25 instead. Well, I know that 4 times 25 is 100. So 8 times 25 is 200. 12 times 25 is 300. 16 times 25 is 400. And 20 times 25 is 500. So you know the answer is 20. I'm just trying to give you a better way of working that out. Okay, so it's 20 bags of sweets. So she sells 20 bags of sweets for 65p each. Okay, so that's 20 times 65p. So instead of doing 20 times 65p, we can do 2 times 65p. Okay, well, 2 60p's is £1.20. So 2 65p's must be £1.30. Now, what that means is that we can say now that 20 times 0.65 or 65p isn't £1.30, but because we've added this 0 on, we have to move our decimal point, meaning that in total it was £13. Okay, so he made £13, but he had to spend £10 on sweets. So that means altogether he's made a £3 profit. And it wants to know the profit percentage. So all you need to do is that £3 over the original amount that he had to spend. So 3 over 10, okay? 3 over 10 is 30%. Make sure you know those, okay? 30%. Any that you that are written like this, so 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, and so on, okay? All of those, that's 10%, that's 20%, that's 30%, and that's 40%. Okay, and that continues on all the way up until 9 over 10, which is 90%. All right, so make sure you know those ones because they're really important, along with the other ones that you should know, mainly these. Okay, you should even learn that one. I think that's probably the most important. Okay, all right, let's move on then. Okay, so question 22 then. Question 22 says that a cycle race across America is 3,069.25 miles in length. Juan knows his average speed for his previous races is 15.12 miles per hour. For the next race across America, he will cycle for 8 hours per day. Estimate how many days Juan will take to complete the race. Okay, so the key word here is estimate. All right, so just be really careful. You've got to estimate these different measurements. You don't want to use these whole numbers, these entire numbers, because you've not got a calculator and they're really long. Like they're really not big, but like they've got decimals in and there's more room for error. So they're telling you to estimate, which means you can just round the numbers up. So I'm going to round this to 3,000 miles because it's closest to that. And I'm going to say that it is 15 miles per hour. So he's got 3,000 miles to travel. He's travelling at 15 miles per hour and he can do 8 hours a day. Okay, we didn't have to round that one. It's already rounded. So first of all, I want to know how many miles he can do per day. So 15 times 8. Okay, so 15 times 8, just in case you don't know how to do this. You do 5 times 8, which is 40. So you put the 0 and carry the 4. And then you do 1 times 8, which is 8. And then we add the 4, which is 12. And then we put the 12 in there. So it's 120 miles a day. So now to work out how many days, we actually need to do 3,000 miles divided by 120. Now, it's up to you, but it's easier to do 300, so take off a 0, divided by 12. Okay? So using our bus stop method, 300 divided by 12. How many 12s can you fit into, well, we've got to use 30, because we can't use 3, and I can't be bothered to work it out for 300 entirely right now. Okay, and I'm sure you would rather have a method. So 30 divided by 12, so we've got 24, so we can only fit 2. Okay, and then 24 up to 30 is 6 left over. So then we say how many 12s into 60. Okay, so you'll just have to work that one out, but it is 5. Okay, so you'll have to do 12, 24, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it's actually 5 into 60, so altogether it's 25 days. All right. Okay, so I hope that's understandable. Then the next part of this question says that Juan trains for the race. The average speed he can cycle at increases. It is now 16.27 miles per hour. How does this affect your answer to part A? Well, you could say something like it takes him less days, or it will take him less time. Because his speed has increased. Okay, and you'll be able to get your full marks then, as long as you're writing down the right things. Okay? All right, almost there, guys. So question 23. Here is a solid square-based pyramid. Now, again, don't panic as soon as you see something like this and leave it, because this is one of the easiest questions in the entire paper. The base of the pyramid is a square of side 6 centimetres. The height of the pyramid is 4 centimetres. M is the midpoint of BC and VM, which equals 5. You don't need to know that, so don't worry about that bit. I don't know why it's confusing you, because all it's doing is asking you to draw an accurate front elevation of the pyramid. Now, an accurate front elevation is where it's pointing at here, and if I take my little highlighter, I'm just going to colour it in for you, because it's only this front bit. That's all they want you to draw a picture of. And in order to draw a picture of that, all you need to know is the height and the base. Well, we already know that the height is 4. Says it there. Okay, and the base is 6. So all I'm going to do is draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then halfway in the middle, I'm going to go up 4 squares to there. And then I'm going to draw it in. Now, obviously, you will have to use a ruler, please. Don't mess me about and not use a ruler in the actual exam. And then you'll just label it 6 centimetres and 4 centimetres. So easy. You get 2 marks, and it's literally just that bit. So please don't skip that in the test if it comes up. Okay, question B, okay, was harder, but still not as hard as you might think. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog barking. She gets excited about the neighbour's dogs. Okay, what I want you to do for B is work out the total surface area of the pyramid. So I'm going to look back at my pyramid. Now, surface area of my pyramid is a bit different. When it says surface area, it means, and I'm going to just take off all this yellow and I'm going to show you in pink probably. Surface area means that it wants you to find the area of the front, okay, the sides, all the sides down here, and the base as well, okay? Now, oops, I apologise. Now, looking here, let's say we've got this side base here, this side piece, because it wants the area of the actual triangle, okay, not the volume or anything, we need to use this as the height, because that's the height of that triangle. The front elevation was different, okay, it's the height of the pyramid. For the surface area, you need the height of the triangle. So now I'm just going to do this on here because it's easier. So the area of the triangle is base times height over 2. Well, the base is 6 because it tells us that here, and they're all the same. It's a square base pyramid. And the height is 5. And all of that divided by 2. So that's 30 divided by 2, which is 15. Okay, so the area of this is 15 centimetres squared. But I've got 4 of them, okay? It's a square base pyramid, everything's the same. So I'm going to have to times that by 4. So that's 60 centimetres squared. Now the only last thing we need to do is, if I change my colour, the base. The base is 6 by 6. Okay, here we go, 6, so that must be 6. So for the base, it's 6 times 6, it's just a square, which is 36 centimetres squared. So for the entire surface area, it's 60 from here. Oh, sorry. It's 60 from here, plus the 36 from here, gives a total of 96 centimetres squared. Okay, and that's it. So I'm just going to put that in here, just for my sake. All right. And I hope that's understandable as well. I know I keep saying that, but I get worried for you. Okay, so question 24. This was tricky, I thought. But once you kind of understand it, you'll get it. But these ones are really hard to teach because they bring out these silly questions. You're never going to have to do this in your life. Anyway, a pattern is made from 4 identical squares. The sides of the squares are parallel to the axes. Point A has coordinates 6, 7, just here. Point B has coordinates 38, 6, just here. Point C is marked on the diagram and it wants us to work out the coordinates of point C. Now, first things first, I know that looking at my x-axis, I'm going to try and work out my x-axis coordinate first. So trying to find the x-coordinate first, I'm going to look here. So this is 6 and this here is 38, okay, on my x-axis. All right, so going along, think of it going along like that. Okay. So I want to know the length really because I want to work out, the lengths of the sides. So I'm going to do 38 take away 6, okay, and that gives me 32. Now 32 divided by 4 is 8, which means that each of these must measure 8, okay, because from there to there, the length is 32. Okay. So, if they're all 8, then I can work out what my x-coordinate would be for C. Because I know that going from 0 to there is 6, going from there to there is 8, and going from there to there is 8. And that gets me to my x-axis there. So 6 plus 8 plus 8. Okay, well that's 16 plus 6 is 22. So x must equal 22. All right. And then finally, to get to here, we know that this is 36 on the y-axis, sorry. That's 36 there. And if that's 36 and we're trying to go down to this point here, well, we know that that's 8 and that's 8. So we do 36, take away 16, leaving me with 20. So y equals 20. All right, it's just about trying to figure out which bits mean what. And, you know, just practicing those types of questions, really. They can be a bit tricky. All right. Okay, so now finally we have got on to question 25. Now, question 25 says, on the grid below, draw the graph of y equals 1 minus 4x for values of x from minus 3 to 3. Now, what I'm going to do, it looks really complicated, but really all you need to do is think that you're being told that these are your x values. So if those are your x values, we're going to draw a little table just here. And our x values are from minus 3 up to 3. So that's minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0, and then 1, 2, 3. Now our y values, we don't know them. And in order to find them out, we're going to use this equation that they wrote for us just up there. Now the first number that's going to go in is minus 3. Okay, so we're going to put minus 3 in our equation. I'm going to write this here. So y equals 1 minus 4 times, and we put minus 3 where x is. I'm going to put it in a bracket just so I don't confuse myself. So then we've got y equals 1 minus 4 times minus 3. Well, minus 4 times minus 3 is actually a positive 12. So that would actually be 13. So y would equal 13, and we put 13 in there. Then what we're going to do is we're going to put minus 2 into our equation. Okay, I'm going to write this here. So y equals 1 minus 4x. I like to write it out every time just for myself. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. 1 minus 4 times, and that means minus 2. Okay, so that's what this means. So y equals 1, and then you've got minus 4 times minus 2, which becomes 8. So y must equal 9. So I'm going to put 9 there. Okay, I'm then going to put minus 1 into my equation. So y equals 1 minus 4 times minus 1. Okay, y equals 1 minus, and then minus 4 times minus 1 is plus 4. So we actually end up with y equals 5. So 5 goes in there. Let's choose a different colour, green. So now, every time. So now we are going to put 0 into our equation. Y equals 1 minus 4 times 0. Well, y equals 1. So minus 4 times 0 is 0. So it'll just be 1. Okay. Then we are going to have 1 in our equation. So y equals 1 minus 4 times 1. Okay, so we've got the 1, and then minus 4 times 1 is minus 4. So 1 minus 4 is minus 3, so minus 3 would go in there. Okay, all right, then we are going to put 2 into our equation. Oops. And, oh, now which orange did I use? Who knows? So y equals 1 minus 4x. So y equals 1 minus 4 times 2. So y equals 1. And then minus 4 times 2 is minus 8. And 1 minus 8 is minus 7. So minus 7 would go in there. Now, finally, we are going to put 3 into our equation. That's the last one. And that's y equals 1 minus 4 times 3. And then you've got y equals 1 minus, well, 4 times, minus 4 times 3 is minus 12. So y take away 12 is 13, and 13 would go in there. And now what we're going to do, and I hope you can, see all that. I think that's all plenty visible for you. We're going to plot these points now down here. Okay, so we're going to do minus 3, 13. So minus 3 is there, and we're going to go to 13, which is just there. Okay, and then we're going to do minus 2, 9. So we go to minus 2 and then to 9, which is there. And then minus 1, 5. So minus 1, minus 1, 5, just there. And you should know that you're going in the right direction because you should end up with a linear graph. So let's carry on. So linear means straight, by the way. 0, 1, which is there. 1 minus 3. 2 minus 7. And 3, oh, sorry. Oh dear, we made a mistake here. I'm lying to you. So here, where I told you this answer, so 1 take away 12 is actually minus 11, sorry. My fault. Okay. And let's just add that in. So 3 minus 11, which looks good. Now the only point I'm a little bit worried about is this one. So I'm just going to check it, and the reason it's wrong is because I've plotted it wrong. So it's on 15 and I should be on 13. So 13 is there, and it was minus 3, wasn't it? There we go. So now we should have a nice straight line, and I'm just going to take my ruler and I'm going to draw that in, and that's what you will be expected to do that in your exam. Okay, I know it's not a perfect line, but I'm sure you'll get a better one than me. Okay, so we're just on the last question. It's the last one, and this is about vectors. Okay, so we've only done a tiny bit on vectors, and I will be uploading some more videos to YouTube as well. Okay, so for this one it says that you've got to work out 2a plus b. Now, a is the vector 5, 2, and b is the vector minus 1, 7. Now, if you've got to work out 2a plus b, that means you're going to have 2 lots of 5, 2, because you've got 2 lots of a, plus minus 1, 7, plus b. So 2 lots of this would give us 10, 4, because we're just doubling everything. So 2 lots of 5, 2 lots of 2, okay, plus your minus 1, 7. So 10 plus minus 1 is just 10 minus 1, which is 9. And then 4 plus 7 is 11. So your final vector will be 9, 11. Okay? All right, well done. That is a long paper, and I hope you've really learnt a lot from that. What I will do, if you like, I can put this up on my website and you can download it. I'll also attach the link in the YouTube video, so you've got all the answers there in the different colours ready for you to see. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I really do hope it helped. Please comment with anything else you'd like to see, anything else you're struggling with that I can help with. All right, thank you very much. See you next time.